Welcome to the WRAL Daily Download. I'm Grace Holland. The events that led up to a Chapel Hill crash that killed a UNC student last month continue to unfold. 10 people face charges in the crash, and a newly released court document is shedding new light on what may have led up to it. WRAL Investigates Sarah Krueger has been digging into it. Sarah, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
So, Sarah, are you able to say how you got these documents?
Yeah, so every day for at least the last few days, I have been going to the Orange County Courthouse in Hillsborough and checking in the clerk's office to see if there have been any more arrest warrants, any search warrants returned. In a case like this, a lot of the warrants have been taking a long time to serve, which isn't always the case. A lot of them are referred to in this case as criminal summons, misdemeanors. So it's sort of been a little bit of a different process, and people can kind of just come check in with a law enforcement agency or at the magistrate's office, as they choose and kind of on their timeline. So that's why it's been such a slow trickle of documents coming back, but I've been repeatedly going back, and day by day, maybe one or two more will come in. And so I'm able to get just a few more details each time on what happened that night, what led up to this crash. And so that was the case today. We got one more warrant back, and we also got radio traffic from the Chapel Hill Police Department.
Okay, and what did those two pieces of this puzzle tell us about the timeline of the crash?
So the warrants detail partying leading up to the crash, which was exactly 1 month ago today on January 21st in the early morning hours. And they make mention of some of the people involved taking tequila shots. One of the football players, Travis Shaw, buying 3 bottles of tequila for his group at Still Life Bar, which is a bar on Franklin Street in Chapel Hill. So we know from piecing together all of these different warrants that this was a group of people out together, and then at least some of them left the bar in at least 2 separate cars, both, according to police, with drunk and underage drivers, or underage drivers who had been under the influence of some kind of alcohol, I should say. And this resulted, according to police, in a single vehicle crash. In that car, the driver was Flamija Brewer. She's a UNC student, 20 years old. And then 2 passengers, one of which was Molly Rotunda, a UNC student who died. And another person in the car was a North Carolina Central University student who was 21. He was one of the few who was over age. She was also in the car and is also facing charges. And most of these people are facing charges for aiding and abetting or underage consumption. So most of the charges relate specifically to alcohol as opposed to the crash. But of course, the driver of the car in which Rotunda was a passenger and Rotunda died, that driver, Flamija Brewer, is facing the most serious charges.
Okay. And what did these documents tell you about Zachary Rice? I feel like we learned a lot about him from this today.
Yeah, so today what it really mentioned was, today and yesterday, I should say, the warrants talked about him, but that he was one of the ones who had tequila at Still Life Bar bought by that other football player, Travis Shaw. And so Zachary Rice, Travis Shaw, they're 2 of the 3 who are on the UNC football team. And the warrant today talked about how he was one of the drivers, and he was closely following that other car that Brewer was driving, and it's Brewer's car that we know ultimately crashed. But the warrant today said he was closely following within 15 yards of that other car while that car was traveling at 124 miles per hour in a 45 mile per hour zone. Yeah, and we've reported that street racing, we had learned, was a possibility in this, and the warrant today would seem to possibly support that, talking about these really high rates of speed and closely following each other. And we also know from Chapel Hill Police that Rice did not crash. So Brewer's car crashed. It was a single vehicle crash. It's unclear at this point what led police to Zachary Rice. I've asked them. They couldn't elaborate on it. They just said they were led to him through the investigation, but reiterating that his car did not crash. And just to sort of wrap up, who are the people charged, what we know so far. So it's 10 people charged. At least 6 are UNC students, and that includes 3 UNC football players, and then 2 still life employees who are also students. So they were charged for working at the bar and serving alcohol to minors, but we later learned and confirmed through UNC that they're also students. And then of those 10, 1 is a North Carolina Central University student. We've confirmed that much. And then as far as the 3 other people, it's unclear, if they're local college students. I wasn't able to track down anything on that. Several of the people are from Greensboro. We know Molly Rotunda, the victim, the sophomore from UNC who died, she's also from Greensboro. So it's possible maybe that these were friends from Greensboro, friends from different colleges. It's not really clear, but we're still, doing our best to piece all of that together.
Right. And as you're piecing this together, have you been able to talk to any of the people who've been charged?
No. So I have made many attempts to talk with people charged and their family members and their attorneys. And at best, I have gotten no comments. But nobody, wants to be talking about this right now.
Okay. We're going to take a quick break right there and be right back. So, Sarah, before the break, you were saying that you haven't had a chance to talk to any of the people charged. I'm curious, though, with this many UNC students involved and just university students in general, have any of the universities said anything about this? Has the football program said anything about this crash?
Not really, no. It's been difficult to get information. UNC did confirm that various people were students, but that's really the extent of UNC's involvement and information. Multiple of us at WRAL have reached out to the athletics department trying to get a better understanding of the status of these football players or any possible repercussions within the program, and that we really haven't heard anything back. I did just this afternoon get a response to, I had filed a public records request asking about these 3 players' status on the football team, and the response I got to that public records request was just a link to the roster on which they are all 3 listed. So for now, that is what we have. Of course, these are charges and allegations, so we'll see, how this plays out in court.
Right. And as we approach those court dates, what details are we still waiting to learn here?
So a lot of details. I think one of the questions on my mind that I have asked and I'm still not getting an answer to, but is what is the blood alcohol content, or what was the blood alcohol content for the 2 drivers? And so I think that will be potentially telling in the investigation and where that's headed, but at this point we do not know that. And then just more about the methods that Chapel Hill Police and then the alcohol law enforcement, they got involved as well, ALE did, in this investigation, and just learning more about how they pieced all of this together and linked all of these different people to this. I imagine that surveillance video may be playing some kind of a role in the investigation, but this is, a 2-pronged investigation with these 2 different agencies. Police, they were the ones really investigating the crash, and then ALE got involved because the crash involved underage drinking, and that's what led to the charges against many of the other people stemming back to the bar on Franklin Street. So I think, through search warrants and through court appearances, we will hopefully get a clearer picture of how all of this was pieced together.
And what are the next steps, particularly when it comes to court dates?
So the different defendants, the 10 defendants, have court dates that span from, weeks to months out. So it's possible down the line some of those cases might get consolidated and they might, try to put them on the same court date. But for now, it's pretty much all over the map over the next several weeks and months of these people having various court appearances. So we will be diligently staying on top of it.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Sarah. We know you will stay on top of it for us. And thank you for listening to the WRAL Daily Download. If you've listened to this podcast on WRAL.com or the WRAL News app, You can also find it in Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or anywhere you listen to podcasts. Follow the show so you don't miss an episode. Thanks for listening.